Yeah.
Jerry?
Hello now. I
Hello,
don't
hello.
know how to adjust it. Okay.
Okay.
Morgan?
Hello, hello. Is that good?
Good?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, well, welcome to Sotheby's Institute of Art New York. I'm Christine Kwan. I'm the director and CEO of the Institute. And I want to welcome you all tonight to New York for this amazing conversation we have with one of the most outspoken and brilliant and hilarious art critics in New York, Jerry Saltz, and also winner of the Pulitzer Prize.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, for those of our viewers who are watching online, you
Where's
can't
the
see
camera?
the mayhem in the audience.
Is that the
There
camera?
are cameras, yeah.
You should see them. Okay.
Yeah, it's a scene here, so thank you all for coming. And I also want to introduce Morgan Falconer, Dr. Morgan Falconer, who is on our contemporary art faculty here at the Institute. And he will be leading this conversation tonight with Jerry. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry and Morgan. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And now I'll give a completely unnecessary introduction to Jerry Saltz. Jerry's career as an art critic has stretched over 3 decades. He's been a senior art critic at New York Magazine since 2007. Prior to that, he was senior art critic at The Village Voice. He has been a contributor to magazines ranging from Frieze to Parquet to Art in America. And before winning the Pulitzer Prize for Criticism this year, he was twice a finalist, in 2001 and 2006. He's the recipient of the 2007 Frank Jewett Martha Award for Art Criticism from the College Art Association. He won the National Magazine Award for Columns and Commentary in 2015 and was a finalist for the same award in 2011. And at last count, which was at 3:24 p.m. this afternoon, you had 280,000 followers on Instagram.
Boom! I thought it was more.
Well, no, hang on. 500,000 on Twitter.
Oh.
And 88,684 precisely on Facebook. And we're thrilled to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. And follow me, for God's sake.
Tell us about the Pulitzer. How did you hear? When did you hear?
Well, I'm just meeting Morgan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jerry.
I've heard a lot about you, and I actually thought I was walking into a very small boardroom with him to talk to like the real high mucky mucks of Sotheby's, and were going to yell at me and whatever. So I'm thrilled to see all of you here. I'm really grateful that you would come out for an art critic. What's wrong with you? I was sitting at my wife, Roberta Smith, who's the art critic, one of the art critics for the New York Times, who I think is the greatest art critic writing today. Honestly, I'm not just saying that. I've Instagrammed that. I've tweeted it many, many times. The last time I was a finalist for the Pulitzer, I had actually given up. And I actually wrote at some point a few years back, white men pretty much got all of them for the last 47 years, on and off. And as much as it hurts, I wrote something like, that's it. It's over. You just give them to other people. And I suggested Roberta. And so I live with Roberta Smith, my wife. We rent a house around, does anybody know where Kent, Connecticut is? It's up in the northwest corner of Connecticut. We rent it year-round, and we have no life. You need to know, if you're going to be an art critic, no life. So we were doing, Morgan, what we always do. We were sitting there at our desks. I was looking at her over my screen. She was looking out the window. There are cows outside. And we're in our totally boring life. No life, just this, right? And I got an email on my machine at 3:07 that went Pulitzer from my editor. And I wrote back, fucking congratulations. Because my editor is a guy named David Wallace Wells who wrote the best story I've ever read. It was a cover story on climate change for New York Magazine. It set all sorts of records for readers. Then, from where I was seated, I kept seeing all these in-house New York Magazine emails that said Pulitzer, Pulitzer, Pulitzer. They were emailing to each other, and I thought, that damn David, he did it, right? Good for him. And then Roberta got a phone call. 3 minutes later, from the New York Times, she put down the phone and she said, they want to talk to you. And I said, put down the phone. We have to freak out and get happy and hug and stuff like that. That's how I found out. It was a good way to find out.
You must be very popular at the magazine. It's the first Pulitzer.
It's New York Magazine's first Pulitzer. I think it shatters something of a ceiling where magazines haven't been eligible until very recently because there's not going to be many more newspapers. So we have to figure out how to keep recognizing writers. And of course, the first years they were giving them just to the New Yorker because it's cool. They have 2 ads a week, and I love it. Of course I love it. So I was thrilled that our magazine got one, and I'm glad it was me. And right before we went to bed, we Googled it. We both looked at each other on the pillow and went, is there any money with this?
10,000, isn't it?
10,000?
I checked.
It's 15.
Really?
Boom!
You got it right.
So it's all good. And for the critics in this room, you know that's like selling a painting for like $500,000. Like boom, and my wife already spent $1,500, so I don't know. Thank you for asking me a softball.
There are many more, don't worry. You didn't set out to be a critic. One of the articles the Pulitzer jury commended you for was recounting your life as a failed artist. And I wondered whether, so can you tell us what led you from being a failed artist to being a successful critic?
I have no degrees. So as huge losers as you are, you know, like you woke up this morning going, loser, loser bigger, okay? I can beat you probably, okay? I was a long-distance truck driver till I was 41, probably the only Jewish one. Mind you, because I am Jewish, that these were not 18-wheelers. I don't think we're allowed to drive those. It was a 10-wheeler, which is a lot for a Jew. And I was doing this. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be in the art world in the worst way. I was making art. That's too long of a story to go through. But many of you in this room who are not artists, I would raise your hand if you started as an artist. Look around. Look around at your fellow demon speakers. Demons spoke to Christine.
Yes.
What's your name?
Ines.
Ines. Demons spoke to Ines. You raised your hand over here. What's your name?
Amanda.
Amanda listened to the demons. Behold, they tell you what they tell me. I'm now 67, and it never changes. Never changes. This morning before I got up to work, it was like, you don't really know what you're doing, right? You don't have anything new to say. You didn't go to the right school. You can't schmooze. You don't have enough money to really hang out in this world. You don't even have fucking time to do it. Your ankles are too fat. You know, my hair's no good. And you know, that's what all of us hear all day. And I would say, get used to it, punks. Get used to it. It's not gonna stop. It might get easier and then harder, harder, then easier, but it doesn't stop. That voice in your head will not go away. The voice in my head spoke to me with the same messages. You can't draw. You don't know how to paint. You didn't go to the right school. Whatever it is, right?
You said you felt you didn't have the character to be. I mean, it wasn't sort of technical or technical failings. It was that something about your character you just felt was flawed to be an artist. So what is it about being a critic that you've got the character to be a critic but not an artist?
I like my character. I'm not
I'm
sure
not assassinating.
what it is, but none of us are sure what we are, right? I surprise myself every day. And online, I really surprise myself going, who the hell is that guy? What's he on about? But what I meant when I wrote that I quit being an artist, and in retrospect, it was only later. When I quit, I thought I was a genius and that I was a great artist, but I'd given in to Satan, basically. But it was only much later that I realized that I didn't have the character, meaning I'm looking at a kid there, one guy in a hoodie. His name is Jonathan Gillette. How old are you now, Jonathan? 38. I met you when you were like 23 or something. He was a kid at the Art Institute of Chicago. I looked at his work. I loved his work. But more than that, I've never told you this, I believed he had the character to be an artist. And what I mean by that, Morgan and Jonathan, is that you have the ability, the possibility of solving the problems that are eventually going to present themselves in your work that I could see, or in my own work, that you have the character to do that without getting too defensive, too delusional, too asshole-ish, male painter-ish, if you know what I mean. And I didn't have the character, and I also didn't have the character to be alone enough. I liked going to galleries, and I liked being out.
What does it take to be a critic? What character?
Well, you never get out much. That's the irony, right? What does it take to be a critic? You're an art lover, first of all, above all else. You love art. I think about art, all I talk about is art. I'm very boring. When I go to a dinner, and I never, ever go. I haven't gone to a sit-down dinner since 1998 because I'm very boring. What I would do is sit down next to you, and I would say, what shows have you seen?
It's a killer.
What?
It's a killer.
It's a killer. And if he said, well, I haven't been around to shows, then I sit like this for 2 hours. I don't want to just talk about bad Trump, and I'm not talking about movies anymore. And so critics, you have to be an art lover. You have to really believe in artists. I believe you must make an enemy of cynicism. Have any of you ever met Jeff Koons? Yeah, you've met him. Do you know, tell the truth, doesn't Jeff believe what he's doing? He does. Who else has met him and wants to confirm the horrendous truth? You over there? Say it out loud. Even Jeff Koons believes what he's doing. Nobody wakes up in the morning except a certain president and says, I'm going to really pull the wool over everybody's eyes. I'm going to fake you out. He believes in what he's doing. All artists really believe in what they're doing, and I want you to believe that when you're in crappy shows, that this crappy artist may be unoriginal, derivative. They may be repetitious. They may not have any technique that you can see that's original. But they really mean what they're doing. So I think a critic needs to be open to everything and not have a theory about what you're going to like. May I keep talking, or do you want to ask another question?
I'm going to try and jump in.
Okay, no, I'll shut up. There's a lot to say here.
It's fine. It's cool. It's cool. Keep going. How did you start then? You got a job doing, you didn't launch yourself into a full-time job with a magazine. Did you get a few gigs while you drove the truck?
No.
Were you writing in your cab?
While I was driving a truck, I was burning with envy. I'm dying from envy like you. And that would be the first thing I would tell all of you. Before the night is over, make an enemy of envy. It will eat you alive because your eyes are always turned outward, never at yourself. Your character is not being tested. Rather, you're saying that, oh, she has this, he has that, they have that, I want this, they have a better apartment. I was burning. I couldn't walk around Manhattan without hating every apartment I looked at for years on end. It was a nightmare. Anyway, and this is all true. And I was bitter about not being an artist. I gave up, but I'm the genius, and this bad artist is still showing, and she's showing, and he is. So in the truck, I started reading, thinking, well, what would be easy if I can't be an artist? What would be easy? And I thought, I bet being a critic would be easy. And now, how many of you in this room have ever tried to write? The worst thing in the world. It's the worst art, the worst. You'd rather do anything on the earth until it's going. Then it's as great as all the other creative acts. So anyway, I started to read this thing called art form. And I didn't understand a goddamn word of it. I was going nuts. And this is in the 1980s. And I'm reading it, it's going, the late commodified object of the simulacra finds a neo-Marxist placation of, and I'm going, right on, man, right on, but secretly not understanding any of it. To make a long story short, like you, I hit a bottom. And I realized that no matter how afraid I was, no matter how intimidated, poor, uneducated, stupid, afraid of being rejected, no matter how afraid I was, being rejected would be better than what I'm doing now. And I started writing. I started writing terribly until the thing that is sent from hell by heaven, via heaven, which is something we call deadlines. A deadline snuck up on me, and out of nowhere, I wrote what I thought. And for the first time in my life, it felt good. Instead of trying to be smart, a third piece of advice for you, give up your attachment to being smart. Please, don't rule out any dumb idea. There's no idea dumb enough for you to rule out. Think about Jasper Johns waking up going, I dreamt I painted the American flag. He did that. So I started writing, long story short, making no money, living crappily, and then I started writing, and deadlines keep you honest, and editors make you good. And that's why a lot of blog writing is just, it's great and it's fun watching people go batshit, but a lot of it's just like out of control, and you want to go, this should be about 1/100th the length. And the other advice I have for the critics, if I may, would you mention the artist's name in the first or second goddamn sentence? You don't have to give an exo goddamn Jesus on Deleuze or Derrida or Baudrillard. You can make your idiot points later. Get to the art. And I started writing.
Sounds good. You write for New York Magazine now, and it's got a very young readership, as I realize as I get older and feel that I'm just...
How old are you?
44 going on 60, I think.
You're 44.
Yeah.
I had just started writing when I was 41. You big baby.
I've got
all of you babies. You can do this. It's so easy. I can't even tell you how easy it is.
But
don't you see the secret?
You've got the voice for a young readership. I see that. I mean, you contributed recently to their Stoner canon. I couldn't isolate exactly what you had contributed to this canon, but you speak the language of the young.
I do?
Yeah, you clearly do.
I think I don't understand art anymore. Honestly, when I go around to galleries, I think there's been a kind of a shift that it's giving me a problem. And that would be namely, did you get to see one of my favorite museums? The New Museum has a show they do once every 3 years. This one is called The Triennial, and they show artists under 35. Yay. I want us all to know that language, the same way I want you to know the language of artists over 35,000 years old. And I am really not kidding about that. If you don't know about your art from 25,000 BC, get out of my life. That's art. That's contemporary art, dopes. Anyway, I find that too much of the art we look at in our dumb biennials, which are these big circuses, they're long labels on the wall. And just to give you an example, I was in a gallery not long ago, and there was pictures of clouds, just clouds. And I looked at the dealer, and I never like it when the dealers talk to me. I love when they say hi, talk to me at the desk, they're friendly. But I really can't stand it. If you guys are going to work in galleries or anywhere, don't do your sales pitch on your peers. It erases me. It hurts me. It makes me sick. It makes me hate myself, and it makes me hate you a lot. And one of them started doing her sales pitch on me, and I said, well, those are nice pictures of clouds. And she said, oh, no, those aren't clouds. I said, what are they? And she said, the artist went to Ferguson, Missouri, and took pictures of clouds. And I lost it. I said, those are not about Ferguson, Missouri. Those are just fucking clouds. And she said, well, she looked around and said, that's probably true. But look, I believe in theory. We wouldn't have gay liberation, women's liberation, black liberation, Jewish anything without thinking this through. I get that. So I'm not anti-reading, anti-theory, anti-writing for artists, or anti-caring. But I am saying job one for the artist. Embed thought in material. Duchamp did when he made the dumb, what's it called, the urinal? Fountain? See, the Sotheby's kids. Fountain.
We teach them.
Which means that's water giving back, not water going in, but whatever. Even your mom and dad would look at that and go, what the hell is that, honey? Right? Mm-hmm. That's the thought. The thought about fountain is, what category is this? Do you see that thought that he embedded in there? That's not easy. Koons can do it occasionally, embed thought in material without touching it. Rubens was able to do it. Tintoretto, not so much. You could always see him in there like that. Right? Anyway, I'm all over the place, and I apologize.
Let me pull you back into a kind of. Let me ask you about your taste then. If you don't like, if you didn't like the new museum show, and you really
yeah,
good,
that's what we were talking about.
that's it.
It's too much
It's
on the
my job
label
to remember
and
what
not
we're
in
talking
the
about.
work, is all I'm saying. That's all, and I want us to get this evened out a little bit more. Go on.
So how would you define your taste? What do you like?
Okay, this is a really good question. How do we define our taste? I don't know. I really don't know until I know. It's the way I thought this was an outfit about an hour and a half ago. I didn't know I thought this was an outfit.
It's a lovely outfit.
You think?
Yeah, it's sober, it's serious.
I haven't worn this shirt. My wife bought it for me. But I did think it was an outfit, and that was my taste right then. You have to keep your taste wide open always, forever. Forever. Do not deny your taste anything. If you like sewing, sewing better be part of your taste.
You're still not telling me what your taste is.
I don't
what do
know.
you like? Is that because
I write about what I like and what I don't like every single week. I'm an open book.
Well, surely you should know. I mean, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. Your job as a critic, perhaps, is to put that aside.
I don't know beforehand, though. I never know beforehand.
So you couldn't tell me what you like.
I could tell you what I like.
The kind of stuff you like.
But it's too easy. I like cave painting a hell of a lot. I don't think mammals have ever been rendered better in the history of our species. I just was really thrilled to see those drawings, those 98 drawings of Cy Twombly at Larry Gagosian, who we all complain about, but thank God the show it was great, and it was free, and it would have taken MoMA 6 years to put it together, and they would have fucked it up by ignoring, Cy Twombly fell off at the end, so we did not include his work. And I'm saying, just show us the work. We'll decide. You ever seen a Enzor show? They all stop in exactly 1900 because the idea is Ensor was no good after that. All the academics say Picasso after Cubism, except for Guernica, please get out of here. Every review they write, we don't know what we're going to like until we're confronted with it. The horror of liking something. Imagine Philip Guston, this guy that was making pretty like Monet feels and like he's the first generation abstract expressionist. He gets to be drunk and it's all good, right? And he wakes up one day and he wants to paint people in Ku Klux Klan hats with driving around, smoking cigars and, doing shit. The horror of that. But he followed his taste. And I want you to follow your taste. What happens if you like bad stuff? You better be able to try to make a case for it. What do you like?
All kinds of everything.
What?
I've got a very Catholic...
So I say that and I get yelled at. But we all like all kinds of everything. We like everything from our secret pornographic taste of like MC... Oh, she looks at me. MC Escher, I was going to say. You have better ideas. Or even that moment you have with Norman Rockwell. Or the moment you cannot have with certain artists that you wish you could have the moment with. Who's that artist with you? For many decades, for me, many, and it hurts me to say it, it was Rembrandt. And over, there's a few people nodding. I would walk past them and go, they're kind of brown. They're kind of brown, and it took, of all stupid things, the Rembrandt that's right here on the corner at the Frick, a portrait, and then I went in and got lost. I got lost. It took me too long on Cézanne, and now Cézanne is a towering epic to me, and it has some of that.
Let me bring the conversation right down.
Am I really ruining it? No.
From Rembrandt and Cézanne,
okay.
Let's talk about social media. What's the point?
I don't know what the point is. I know this, that one of the secrets of pleasure is an extraordinarily important form of knowledge. It's very frowned upon in the West, right? It's not good to be doing things you love to do or stuff. I know that I am so alone so much of the time that how social media started for me was some kid like you giving me this thing on my phone going, you're on Facebook. And I went, what is the Facebook? And one day, I wrote, instead of writing, I'm tired today, my shoes don't fit very well. You know, how we all used to first use Facebook when you kids were in like grammar school. I don't even want to know. I wrote these words down, and this is the irony, because I just saw her show today. I wrote, the recent work of Marlene Dumas is really only photographic realism, smeared, and then I made something critical. And within an hour, 10,000 people had torn me a new one. And within 1 second, I knew what the point was. You know what the point was? Let me tell you what the point was. And I'm really not kidding about this. And you're in it. I know I'm a blabbermouth, but I'm alone a lot, okay? I came into an art world that was shaped like a pyramid. And so we pretend it still is, but that game has been up for a long time. I'm telling you, that game is over. I know the top of the pyramid, they're like me, okay? Of the one, with critics, of the one critic speaking to the many. Do you see that? In 1 second on Facebook, I understood suddenly that instead of the one speaking to the many, you could have the many speaking to one another. If you only made 2 rules. 2 rules. I realized it in a second. I said to everyone, I will block you if you yell at anyone else here. You can scream at me and call me names. That's the second rule. you better have elephant skin. If you don't have elephant skin, really, frankly, get out of the art world. Not everybody's going to like what you do. You don't even like what you do quarter of the time. You go to Chelsea, you only like 15% of the shows, max. Max.
It's not.
That's the point. To communicate and not be alone and have seconds, like 3 or 4 seconds on end of pleasure.
But it's not communication, is it? I mean, there's a lot of barking and kind of shouting and.
Well, you've
fawning.
been on my thing. Only I get barked and shouted at.
But that doesn't make it a
They don't.
conversation. I mean, even
Oh,
if
there's
you're-
conversations.
Yeah.
There were lots and lots and lots of conversations on Facebook till it got boring because it got conservative.
Until they
Too
threw
many
you off.
people my age. What?
They suspended your access and then renewed it. That's right? So because I was
I've been
checking
kicked
still
off
there.
of all 3, and you'll be shocked at what I got kicked off for.
Well, Kenny Schachter said that Kenny Schachter did a profile of you.
He's
He
my
said-
good friend.
I know this is what your friends
We
said,
yell
right?
at each other.
Right. He said that you were posting a bat's private parts, naked ancient Greek girls and boys, enemas being administered, sex from every entry point imaginable, tits, penises, balls, vaginas, asses in every shape and form. Let's not forget gorilla sex too. And this is just 1 month recap of Jerry Saltz's Instagram.
That's not what got me kicked off of Facebook. You want to know what got me kicked off Facebook? Then I'll address that. One of the greatest sculptures made in the late 20th century by a guy named Charles Ray called American Romance. Do you know what that is? Describe it, please. It's 4 people naked, a father, mother, sister, brother, all the same size, all about the same height. And it never occurred to me, because we're so fucked up in the art world, that was full frontal nudity and that was children. Even though I took the picture at MoMA, it never occurred to me. As for Kenny's explanation of what I was posting back then, truth. All of those are masterpieces. Yes, I posted a bat penis from 17th century Ottoman illustration that is quite extraordinary, that has never been seen, and is now only being, it's not just the penis. What he missed was a bat is this long in a watercolor. When was the other than that guy Walton Ford? Who can make a great bat? The other things were like 12th century, 11th century art that was just being rediscovered by digital media. So I thought the art world was open, but it turns out, art world, you're very conservative. You missed masterpieces because there was like somebody giving somebody else an enema. You don't think those people were alive? You don't think they wanted to portray that? They did.
You're not posting that much material. I mean, you're posting all kinds of things these days, not sometimes about art and sometimes about other things, but there is less of that. Did you feel you made a mistake?
Yeah. First, I fought the art world. I fought the law, and the law won. I did. I implored the art world, love this work. This is extraordinarily important work. No one's ever seen these Greek paintings that now they're finally photographing.
But that wasn't the art world. That was Facebook that was making a
No.
judgment about.
No, that's what I wrote about this. No. Facebook wrote to me and said, you have not violated Facebook community standards, but we are getting endless letters from your followers, art world, that your taste is offensive. And I fought it, and then you know what I thought? I accept you, art world. I love you. I don't have another family. I hate family. Sorry. Stop talking to your parents so much. How often do you talk to your parents?
Every day.
Oh, Jesus. I want it down to twice a month. You've got to individuate, you kids. Really, they're loving you to death. Grain of truth?
But you don't feel that material was
It is provocative work.
You didn't say it was that. You said that some people believed it was sexist, misogynistic, or abusive. And
racist.
right.
Homophobic. Every
But
ick
that was
you
the
can
art
think
world
of.
that it was the art world you felt that was too conservative. But
Well, Facebook was fine with it. And they did not kick me off for that.
right.
And nor did Twitter, nor did Instagram. It was only for that one mistake I made without thinking for Charles Ray, and I accept that. I don't want naked kids pictured on the internet. I thought it was a sculpture. So I know this sounds like I'm being disingenuous, but really, I do love that work, okay? And it wasn't the right time for me, a white male, to be posting that work. And it was the wrong delivery mechanism.
Why was it the wrong time?
Because my time is over. Our time is over. Time's up.
I got more time than you.
Time's up. Nah, time is up, and we all know. Liberal space is changing. Liberal space needed to change. Normal space, not changing.
Jerry, I'm going to keep you on topic.
Okay.
The time.
Sorry.
There is an issue about
So
there is an issue about tone and the mood in the country, and the mood in the country is poisonous. But it's not about the mood in the country. It's about the attitudes or the responses of people who did feel that material was offensive,
And I accepted their judgment. I
Right.
did. I stopped.
Okay.
I'm fine with it too. I love the art world. I'm not going to violate them ever. They're my first family.
There was when we a little while ago we were talking about the Pulitzer, and you were saying how you commented on the fact that your wife had not won the Pulitzer. Not enough women had won in that category.
I wrote that on Instagram that
right.
only one won. Emily Janhauer,
Right.
who you don't know.
Yeah, and you said, as you said on Twitter, you said to name only one. My wife, the New York Times critic, who I believe is the best weekly art critic alive.
That was after I got it. And wait till you wait. You should have been there on the phone call that I got from the Pulitzer.
But we can all agree with those sentiments. But at the same time, I think there were women out there who felt that in the light of the controversy over what you were posting, that wasn't good enough, and that it rankled that you won. I want to quote Margaret Carrigan in The Observer.
In The Observer, owned by a person that blocked me on Instagram named, Kirchner? What's Ivana's name? Ivanka's husband?
Oh, Jared.
What? Jared Kushner blocked me, which I'm very proud about. And so did Donald Trump Jr. And I'm very thrilled about this. I'm going for the big kahuna. But ever since that other guy, the Kushner guy, blocked me, they've always been coming at me. But so hear that with that a tiny bit of understanding. But I do agree with what she's writing. Go ahead.
Well, she said, in a time when American politics has been profaned by the purely personal whims of one white man, the celebration of another doing the same in the arts raises some red flags for me.
And I heard her, and I even wrote, I see the red flags you see, and the whole second part of her article was fantastic because it was all about how Roberta Smith should get it. And The Guardian wrote an article saying they love me, but they thought that Roberta should get one. And I see both points. I really get it.
You
Guilty.
Were writing about, you wrote another piece that the Pulitzer jury commended was your article about Baltus's Therese Dreaming, which the Met stood by their decision to exhibit despite the controversy. I wondered if that, your attitude to that was that it should stay on the wall, regardless of the offence it might cause. I wondered whether you felt that you were in the same camp. You you
I
were
did it
causing
again.
offense and should carry on.
What?
If you were causing offence, it was a problem for the people who offended. But
It was a problem. You know what happened at the Met. They wanted the Baltus painting down. This does come up about every 15, 20 years. This has been happening, and I accept that. That is a freaking creepy painting. The guy's a freaking creepy painter. Let's not kid ourselves, first of all, and I wrote that going in. And I have no problem writing all the context stuff you want on the label. The only thing I said in my article is something to the effect of, if you start removing sexually offensive work or explicit work, you're going to take out the entire Indian wing, because Indian art has only animals having sex with people at 40 at a time. Japanese art, have you ever seen when they get going in printmaking? They're fantastic, right? Greek, Roman, that's got to go. The Impressionist out, Picasso, forget it, and probably not Matisse in a lot of cases. When that okay Picasso just sold the other day for $105 million. By the way, I would have bought the 1905 Kandinsky. I'm not a big Kandinsky guy, but this is when he really was still, anyway.
let me ask you, your criticism obviously makes an impact with people. It gets a lot of
Makes
feedback.
no impact anymore. Criticism doesn't have impact. I know you disagree with it. Go on.
No,
Go
I entirely agree
We'll
with
come
that.
back,
But
yeah.
I mean, there's
Ow! No.
there's an argument to be made about whether you have more impact on social media, or that's allowed a platform than your regular columns. But
They're
that's
the same to me. There's no differentiation. I did get kicked off one of those top 100 lists. You know, you get on these Power 100 lists, you hate them before you're on. Then you get on, you go, kind of cool. I'm one ahead of Jasper Johns. And then
Were
I
you
got...
100 at some point?
What?
Were you 100? I used to
No,
work
I
for
was
magazine.
number 53. Were you? Excuse me!
I think I might be compiling the list. I was certainly writing some of them.
You did, but here's what you wrote about me in the earlier days, if this
Okay,
was you.
tell me.
It was beautiful because it was true. I had fallen a few notches, then fallen a few more. And I was still going to parties pretending I didn't care if I was in them or not, but people would go, oh, you're one of the 100 most powerful. And I go, oh, really? No. And then the last time I was ever on, they said, but his antics on social media could get him like really disrespected, and he would maybe disappear from all of this. And I was gone. So you were right. I got kicked off, drummed out, voted off the island. Don't get on those goddamn lists.
Do you sometimes feel? I mean, there are obviously people annoyed at you on social media, or perhaps annoyed at you elsewhere. Does that ever? Are you ever greeted with that in the street or at the galleries?
Yes, I am often. First of all, I Google my name once every couple of days. I Google myself. And it hurts. It does hurt. But I have a belief that there's a grain of truth in every criticism that's leveled. Every one. In other words, maybe not the person is right that I'm an asshole, right? A lot of comments will begin, you asshole. And then I will now write, Dear Mr. or Ms. Juju69, I'm sorry you think I'm an asshole, but when I wrote that about Marlene Dumas' work, I was trying to say that what she did with the opaque projector and how she painted the image didn't transform the image enough from its original source. And then inevitably they will calm down. It does hurt to be criticized all the time, but I do think there's a grain of truth to every bit of criticism. And I'm always, every time I read something, I think two things, and I want you to think this too. One, you could be right. They could be right. That something you've done has left an opening to make them misunderstand what you thought you were doing. And two, this is important for you all. Nobody can say anything worse to me about me than I could say about myself. And I've said it twice, 100 times today. Right? You gotta woman up, man up, grow a pair of whatevers. Don't be big damn babies. Stop calling your parents so much. I love you all. But really, this is not a popularity contest, people. This is life. This is everything. This is about trying to have a life lived in art, which is better than a life lived out there, let me tell you. I've been out there. It's hard.
Tell us what it is like in a house with two critics. How is that? Does Roberta
Well, one of them is much smarter than the other. One of them's always going, God, I wish I thought of that. Well, ask a specific question.
Well,
It's fun. It's
I'm
fabulous.
finding it hard to get a word in. How does she fare? And
He
does
yelled
she,
at me. Okay, I'll give short answers. I apologize. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just curious about how it works out. You are you reviewing the similar shows? Do you talk about that before you write? Do you choose not to? Are you swayed by her opinion and vice versa?
We talk about shows all the time. We don't go to them together that often. We tend to go together on Saturdays. We go to a neighborhood or two, and then split up and keep crisscrossing. And then at 6 o'clock, while you're all getting ready to go out for drinks or coffee or dinners, we scuttle home and go make something in the microwave and start writing. No life. We're not part of society. You think we are. It's really ecstatic to live with somebody that does what you do. And we try not to write about the same shows, Morgan, but with museum shows, it is inevitable. And with more and more of these big shows, I don't know if she wrote on Twombly, but had she, I wouldn't have stopped. I do try for any smaller artist to get out of the way and let them have Roberta. I'm telling you a secret that I've not said out loud before. I always think this is a rite of passage for a young artist, and I want to really let them hear from a real critic, a great critic.
It's got you lots of, both of you, a lot of respect in different ways, but it hasn't made you rich.
No.
You posted in April on Instagram, for all those who suppose that the two full-time weekly art critics, each employed by a major publication, are doing okay financially, each of us is almost 100, and the combined earned income on our two savings accounts is $20.24. So,
I'm
does
not
that
proud.
not dismay you? Do you feel aggrieved?
No.
You don't let envy
I think
eat
that
you up, as you said.
nobody really gets in the art world for the money. Not even Jeff. He'll go broke a few more times.
It's got worse though, hasn't it?
Yes, it is worse
In the
because
past 20 to 30 years,
yes,
there is more pop and film coverage, and that moves aside classical music coverage first, art criticism later, and then poor souls like yourself are scraping by.
there didn't have to be less criticism, Morgan. It's your fault. I'll tell you why. There was never money in criticism. Never. Unless you're like Greenberg, which is smart. Or even my friend, the late Robert Rosenblum, you buy Jasper's work, or Jasper gives you a painting, and then 15, 20 years later, you sell it, get a place in the Hamptons, retire. I'm fine with critics that do that. But Roberta and I don't roll that way. We just don't believe we should collect your work. If I own your work, I'm not writing about it. But let me get to the bigger point. There was never money in criticism. There never will be. So that means there's nothing to lose. You're free. And too many critics are not accepting that freedom. I think that academia has scared the crap out of 3 generations of critics and made them do something deadly. 1, afraid to have opinions. 2, they write in a Mandarin jargon that you really don't understand. 3, or they only write descriptive. They will not put out judgment. You don't like every Goya that you saw at the Prado. You were in the greatest painting museum, right, in Spain at least, and you walk past a few of the Goyas. So the blogs now do 15 best artworks at Frieze. I don't have a problem with covering Frieze, but I actually think you could do 15 artworks. These 7 were good, these are shit. And let me say one more word about negative criticism. He's laughing at me. I feel like I'm just trying to give, okay? Being critical of art, people, is a way of showing art respect. Okay? When you watch your favorite sports team, you don't love every play. You don't love every meal you have. You don't love all the clothes in your, even in your stupid closet. You can wake up every day and go, I can't even go out tonight, right? I got nothing.
I said it was a very nice outfit.
I feel pretty okay about this one. But living with a critic is great. I just wish more critics would see they're free. They're free. Blogs, you could start your own art magazines online. If you build it, they will come.
I would have thought they had more freedom now because they are less read.
They have more freedom, and they're being more like servants to the market. The market doesn't have anything to do with the art world. No, it doesn't.
But who has the power now if it's not critics? And who would you like to see have less power?
Well, the popularity contest, we're talking about over and over the same 55 white, usually male or female, artists. I love Rudy Stingel. I love Christopher Wohl. Those are my guys. I emerged with them. I loved them, right? I wrote on them. Enough. Enough. I'm sick of all the rediscoveries in galleries. It's become a niche market. I want to see what your generations have to say now. I want to see your bad art now. Who has the power? You do. You have so much more than you can possibly imagine if you would just own it. If I could do this, don't you see it? Aren't I showing you by example? If you tell your own story, Louise Bourgeois said, your work will be interesting. That's all you have to do. Don't lie. Don't kiss up. Don't try to work at like Larry's. You probably won't get a job there. If you do, I would be thrilled for you. Honest to God, I think it's a great place to learn. Stay up late with your peers every night. Every night.
Well,
don't date drummers.
So since Jerry's dispensing advice, why don't I open up the floor a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Would anybody like to ask any questions?
We can pass around the mic.
Yeah, okay. Have we got somebody to pass back the mic?
I'm sorry, Morgan. I
Do not apologise. It's been a wild ride.
It's a
and
wild
the ride's not over.
I'll answer briefly now. Don't laugh. Where's the mic? Okay, speak up.
Can you say your name and then you ask your question?
My name is
Thanks.
Claudia Bolshakova. I'm a recent graduate from here. So I have a question. Isn't it dangerous to write bad things about people because people are getting upset and they can, I don't know, even physically maybe hurt you?
Did you all hear it? Is it not dangerous to write bad things? Don't they get upset? And might they physically hurt you? Yes. First of all, when I write here's one thing about being a critic. If you're a critic in a big city, you can afford to lose about 50 friends each week. But if you're writing, say, in Baltimore, then you don't attack artists because you're a vampire clique together, and you must protect each other in your smaller cities. In New York, when I have a negative, I have one right now. It's out in public, and the artist ignored me. It hurt my feelings, but you know what? I thought, well, I hurt her feelings, and she did her work. I did mine. One artist almost hit me.
I
A
was thinking
woman
of,
grabbed me by the elbow. I will tell you if I ever get really drunk. Not in the face. One almost did hit me. A boy almost hit me in the face. He even was in like Iraq, and I thought, he's going to just deck me. But one woman artist did yell at me. She looked at me and went, "You're destroying my market." And then she said, "Everybody knows you're fake." And I did the worst kind of arguing you do with your mate when you don't know what to say to your mate. And I just went, "Everybody knows you're a fake." But I didn't get hit. It's healthy to do it for the system. Because again, we all know the deeper truth. 85% of the shows out there you don't like. What makes the art world so interesting is your 85% shit is different than yours. It's different than yours. And in this beautiful overlap, extraordinary things can happen. Anybody else?
When you pass the microphone over, introduce yourself. And,
Yeah, I love knowing who you are. That was the girl when I said something, or the woman when I said about porn taste. She went, "Yes." Sorry.
I'm Alexandria Theaters, and well, I make erotic art, and I'm a recent graduate.
Wow.
But my question was about how you said critiques are important. I think that is super important because when you're in art school, you have critiques by your peers, and that's how you get better. And I think that's why you're saying it's important because
Yeah.
you used to be, or you consider yourself an artist at fault.
I don't consider myself an artist anymore, but what was your first name?
Alexandria.
Alexandria is right. You get the problem in a lot of schools, which have become a sham. Not this institute, I hope. In art schools, is they're only getting positive responses from their teachers, especially if you're a woman or an artist of color or Asian. You see the problem? They're getting afraid to say, "Oh, your art is bad." And when I've done it, believe me, anytime I write negative about any of those categories, you should see the names I'm called. And it does hurt. It hurts to be called a racist because if you defend yourself, then you really sound terrible, right? So I'd say more critics should be doing it. It's up to your generation. There's no reason a fogey should still have this job. Honest to God. Why do I have this job?
Let's pass it on.
Next. Oh, you had a question? Hey, no, you can't do a two-part.
Okay.
Well, no, that wasn't my question.
Yeah, but,
My question
okay,
was,
quick.
Is there an example of an artist that you critiqued in a way that actually saw an improvement years later, maybe early in your career?
Oh, yes, I have been wrong with artists where I thought a certain work wasn't good, but it was, or vice versa. I'm having a hard time remembering right now, but I've tried to support artists who I thought were really great. And my motto is, I will stick with you for 3 shows, 4 shows, 5 shows if you're a young artist. And I'll keep saying I think you're great, but after that you're kind of on your own. If you can't, you have to be able to convince 1 dealer, 2 critics, 4 collectors. If you can't friggin' convince 7 people you're halfway decent, it's not my problem. But I have been wrong many a time, and I try to go back. I once got Pipolati wrist very wrong.
Let's speed
Keep
the
going.
microphone round the room.
Yeah, who's
Yeah.
got the mic? Yeah.
Morgan. Hi.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, over here. Go ahead.
One here, then whatever.
Hi, Jerry. Storm Asher.
So, who?
Storm Asher.
Storm. Hi.
I'm a student. I wanted to know what you think about an artist that studies business.
What did she say?
What do you think about an artist who studies business?
Fine. Whatever you have to study, you study. Art is not a business. Business is not an art. The art market is not art. The stock market is not the economy. You get it? It's great to know things. You could study locksmithing. No, really. Anything you know will make you twice as smart as 90% of our world. We don't know anything. Joseph Kossuth got to be our philosopher back in the 60s because no one had read philosophy at the time. So, it's like, you want the job? Do it. And by the way, on activist art, just because it's on the good subject does not make the art good. And you better friggin' start right? You know, I see you downtown, okay? And I see a lot of your faces in galleries, and we're going to be talking to each other for the next 15 years. You'd be shocked at how many people from these rooms where you think, oh my God, I'm at Sotheby's, how did I end up here, right? A lot of you end up in the art world. A lot. It's shocking. And we have got to solve this problem, that just because you're making good interventionist art about Beirut does not make your art good. And no critic will say that, and every time I do it, you're getting it.
Question.
Question.
Go ahead.
There's a mic.
Hi, my name is Alex.
Speak up.
I'm a student in the business program here. First of all, thank you. It's
Great.
really interesting.
Thank you, Alex.
I am a follow of yours on Instagram.
Yay.
And I noticed that you interact a lot with some emerging artists. Do you use Instagram ever to find artists?
Yes.
I know with your recent criticism of art fairs, can you talk a little bit about finding artists at art fairs versus galleries?
Yeah.
How you find them and make connections?
Okay. I'm out there and I'm looking at all of you. I've probably looked at you. Have I ever liked anything of yours?
I sadly am not an artist.
No? Have I ever liked any of your posts in this room? You see? How friggin' weird is that? Did you see about 15 people? You don't think I'm stupid and crazy? This proves it. Morgan asked me, what do you like? I only know when I see it, and I'm looking. If I see you interacting with me, I will go back and look at you. I want to be seen. We are dancing naked in public, people. Let's be frank. Your parents are content to dance naked in private. But there's something a little screwy about all of you. You need to do this in public, and so do I. So I will look wherever art is. I want to say very briefly, Christianity is the only of the monotheistic religions that has only certain people must live aside from the rest of the culture, and they can perform the magic rites of turning Christ's body into whatever it is, food. I don't know what you do, but I love the story. In no other religion do you have to have a specialist making the religious thing. Rabbis live with people, they got businesses, they got kids. Imams live with them, Zoroastrians are like out there. We have become too insidery, and it's gotten too narrow. Art is too defined. It's always something that's at 53 inches at about, right in the middle of a wall that hangs flat. Art, you will find it. If we call them outsider artists, we have to call ourselves insider artists. Look everywhere. Take you to where your taste goes, no matter how shitty your taste is.
Let's have a couple more questions before we
I love
wind it
this.
up.
I can go all night. I'm like Bruce Springsteen.
They may, but Elaine,
I
go
will
on.
not leave till you leave.
Hi.
Hi.
Use the mic, Elaine.
You have to. There is people listening. Okay.
So we read your article about the art fairs. It was Pulitzer.com.
Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to maybe if you can speak more about the art fairs.
Art fairs.
Yeah, because you talk.
Can't live with them, can't live without them. You know, can't live with them, can't kill them. They're absolutely necessary. They're absolutely impossible. For me, they are not great ways to see art because they drive me insane. I'm not socially well adjusted, and I get nervous at them after the first hour. I'm like, does she like me? No, she hates me. Why am I here? And I can't. And also, art fairs are now so expensive they cannot afford to take chances. At $100,000 a booth or $40,000 a booth, plus 30 grand more, that's $70,000. And you bring her work that costs only 10,000, and yours it's only like 12, and I sell it out. I've taken a gigantic loss, and my gallery will close, unless I am a trust fund person. And God bless you. Don't hate the rich. Love the rich. We need them. They need us. It's all good. We are all one. I don't have an answer to the art fairs But you guys they're broken now, and we got to fix this, and they will be fixed. Like America is broken, art fairs are broken. Okay? This is going to change. It's just how and when. We don't know. Just take the ball in your own hands. You will fail again, fail better.
2 more questions.
100 more questions.
Elena, why don't you pass it back to Nicole?
Any insider question?
Let's get the last one from way over there. in a
Okay,
minute,
yeah.
But, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name's Megan.
Megan, hi.
Yeah, I'm a student here.
Student here.
Yeah, I'm also a art writer for Chinese online art magazine.
Hello, future.
Well,
From the past.
when I'm writing for that online art magazine, I'm recently finding a problem because I'm not a very productive person. I like to spend time when writing art critics, but my editor just keep pushing me to give her more and more articles every week. So I'm wondering.
How many articles can you write a week?
Just 1 or 2.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'm also talking with with an editor from our newspaper in Beijing's office because I will intern there this summer, and she told me that she worked with more than like 3 or 4 Chinese art magazine platforms at the same time because she cannot make enough money. And
So your question is?
my question is, how do you keep balance between productivity and
Okay.
quality of your writing?
I'm going to say a few mean things. Okay? Do you mind? Or will it hurt too much?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Be gentle.
Deadlines are a disaster. I hate them. I too hate them. Okay? And I can only do so much, just like you. But if you're writing an article a week, that's great. If you can write 2, that is phenomenal. These people that write for most of the magazines, they can write 1 a year. It's pathetic. It's like I want to go, you needed that much time to never even write about the work? You're doing just great. What I would say is stay up late every night. Meet other artists. I don't care if you're not social, you have to do it. I'm agoraphobic. You wouldn't know it, but I cannot go out. I can only be in groups of people. That's why I'm so eager to be here till you all leave. And then I'm totally alone, and I won't see another person for... stay up every night, hang out, put yourself out there, show up, grow a pair of whatever, keep writing, write your opinion, and work. Work, and take good care of your teeth.
Last question. Come in. Someone over there.
You can stay and ask later.
Where is the...
I will
do we have a
not
mic?
move here until you're done, because this is the only now I have. Please, and make it a question.
Yes. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, hi, what's your name?
My name is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Clearly, you and your wife see a lot of shows, and the majority are in New York. Can an artist make it outside of New York or a major city?
Great question. Roberta and I see mainly shows in New York. That is a truth, and I don't fight it. A lot of people yell at me online and in person, oh, Jerry, I have a show in Brazil. You should see it. I have one in Azerbaijan. You should see this. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I should see it. When I go to the Venice Biennale, I go only for 2 or 3 nights. That is as long as I can get away on a weekly deadline. My species is dying. There might be a reason for it. If there's no necessity for a weekly deadline, fine. So I only see art in my city. Can you make it in other cities? Absolutely, but they better be a city. Vampires must live and show and dance among other vampires. A vampire dancing alone, kind of a sad thing. Kind of freaky, except for the photographers who they need to go to Kentucky and and we're all taking pictures of the Hillary movement. Where were our people taking pictures of Trump and his supporters? Only the news did that. We would not look at it. We must look at our time. We're obsessed with trying to impeach Trump, okay? Well, we probably won't. Was he guilty? Probably. I'm old enough to know it takes too long to impeach him anyway. He'll be gone by then. The truth is, we have not come to terms with the impossibility that we actually did elect him. We will not face that. He was the candidate of a major party. And this is happening in countries all over the world right now, babes. Nationalism is back. Religion is back. Maybe it's because modernity just didn't work out for people. Maybe it's only a blip. The truth is probably the future is China, Brazil, Norway, Canada, and Russia. Am I forgetting a big country? Probably India will administer it. Because as the polar ice cap melts, who are the people that will be able to communicate? Norway and those countries, obviously. And China will build everything, and Japan will take care of it. And America may be, ends of empires are not beautiful, but they make beautiful things.
We're going to end it there because we've got to Trump and vampires, and I don't know how we got there. Thank you,
Okay,
Jerry.
thank you, Morgan. I'm sorry.
It was beautiful.
It's how I am. And I will stay here if you want to ask me anything, or if you want to take a selfie with me. And if you post it online and I find it, I'll come and show you some love.
So I just want to invite you all to go in the comments where we will have drinks and a reception, and you can take your selfies with Jerry there. Thank you so much. So brilliant.